A teenager is behind bars for fatally shooting his mother. At 12:36 p.m. on Monday the 20th of November, authorities responded to a home at 2279 Warren Street in Toledo, Ohio on reports of a person shot. When officers arrived, they entered the premises and found a woman in a critical condition with a gunshot wound. She was transported to a local hospital, where she was pronounced dead. The woman was identified as 53-year-old Deborah Baker. Authorities identified Deborah's 18-year-old son Joshua Brown, who lives with his mother, as a suspect in the shooting. While questioned, Joshua admitted to shooting his mother. He told investigators that he heard someone coming up the stairs, which scared him. He grabbed a handgun he had on his lap, walked out into the hallway and shot once, striking and killing his mother. He was arrested and charged with reckless homicide and is held at Lucas County Correction Center. 4 years ago, Toledo police posted on social media about Joshua when he was 14, after he went missing from his home on Warren Street and was later found. The post described him as being high-functioning autistic and having attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. On the 12th of May 2022, when Joshua was 17, he was walking near Putnam Street and Columbia Street at 4 p.m, when multiple shots were fired from an unknown SUV that drove by, police said at the time. He suffered one gunshot wound and was treated at Mercy Health St. Vincent Medical Center. Police did not identify any suspects in that case. The investigation into the matter continues. 27-year-old Kayla Michael Scott of Shreveport, Louisiana, is accused of trying to rape his grandmother. On the evening of Saturday the 18th of November, Kaylin entered a room while masturbating, then tried to force himself on her. At 10:05 p.m. that night, Kaylin was arrested and charged with attempted first-degree rape. Kaylin admitted to all the acts and stated that he's attracted to older women. He remains held at the Shreveport City Jail. A 25-year-old man is behind bars for multiple child sex offences. On the 16th of October, the Special Victims Unit at the Alamance County Sheriff's Office in North Carolina began to investigate a reported sexual assault of a minor. During the investigation, detectives identified Eric Maldonado Cardenas of Burlington as a suspect. On Thursday the 16th of November, Eric was arrested and charged with sex offence with a child by an adult, indecent liberties with a child, and rape of a child by an adult. Eric remains held at the Alamance County Jail on a $250,000 bond. On Friday the 17th of November, 42-year-old Joshua Daniel Quisenberry and 43-year-old Julie Diane Quisenberry of Ripley, West Virginia, were arrested following a child neglect complaint. Investigators interviewed the couple's 4 children, who said that their parents threatened them and each other with guns on multiple occasions. Joshua and Julie have been charged with child neglect creating a risk of serious injury or death. They each held at the South Central Regional Jail on a $100,000 bond. A 30-year-old man is behind bars for shooting his girlfriend. At around 1:30 a.m. on Sunday the 19th of November, authorities responded to an apartment complex in the 1000 block of College Drive in Texarkana, Texas, and found a 25-year-old woman suffering from a gunshot wound to the shoulder. She told police that her boyfriend Cavante Wright shot her in another apartment, and she ran to a neighbour's apartment looking for help. Medics transported the victim to hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. The Texarkana police said that while Lieutenant Jeremy Courtney was responding to the call, he noticed a man getting into a vehicle along College Drive leaving the scene. He stopped the car a little over a mile away along St. Michael Drive and found that Cavante was a passenger. Cavante was taken into custody after other officers arrived at that location. He initially resisted their efforts to handcuff him, but he eventually complied. During this encounter, the officers could see a pistol laying on the floorboard under Cavante's feet. Cavante was arrested and charged with aggravated assault causing serious bodily injury and resisting arrest. He's held at the Bi-State Jail with bond set at $120,000. The investigation into the matter continues. A Fulton County detention officer is accused of behaving inappropriately with a male inmate at the South Annex Jail in Union City, Georgia. On the night of Thursday the 16th of November, 37-year-old Latasha Baker was arrested and charged with 3 counts of possession of prohibited items by inmate and 3 counts of violation of oath of office. She was fired from her job the next day. Authorities said a second person, identified as 20-year-old Jaheim Arnold, was also arrested in connection to the contraband investigation. Jaheim was charged with possession of a firearm by a convicted felon, possession of a firearm or knife during the commission of or attempt to commit certain crimes, willful obstruction of law enforcement officers, and several traffic violations. Authorities said Latasha was first employed as a detention centre officer with the Sheriff's Office from the 10th of February 2016 to the 12th of January 2022. She was rehired on the 7th of June 2023. Latasha and Jahim are held at the Fulton County Jail without bond. Fulton County Sheriff Patrick Labbett said, "I'm committed to holding each and every employee accountable to the oath they've taken to protect and serve our community. The actions of this one officer are certainly not a reflection of the rest of the Fulton County Sheriff's Office. The introduction of contraband to any of our facilities will not be tolerated," he said. The investigation into the matter continues. A 58-year-old caregiver at an assisted living home has been charged in connection with the death of an 82-year-old resident who wandered outside during a winter storm in 2022. On Monday the 20th of November 2023, Colin O'Connor was charged with second-degree vulnerable adult abuse in connection to the death of Lois Carey. The incident occurred in the morning hours of Friday the 23rd of December 2022 at Vista Springs Imperial Park at Timber Ridge Village on Park Lake Road in Lansing, Michigan. Colin twice saw Lois try to go outside without appropriate attire into a blizzard with single-digit temperatures, sub-zero wind chill, and blowing and drifting snow. At 7 a.m. that morning, a snowplow driver discovered Lois partially covered in snow in the parking lot. The victim was transported to a local hospital via ambulance, where she died of hypothermia. Assisted living facility officials said that Lois was taking a dog for a walk and thought she may have become disoriented in the snow. The dog is okay and is with family members. Investigators said that Colin recklessly failed to act to protect the victim from going outdoors into the storm, resulting in her death. Colin has since posted a $5,000 bond. The investigation into the matter continues. A woman has been charged with murder after assisting her mother's suicide. At 7:13 p.m. on the 10th of September 2023, authorities responded to a home at 12901 Blue Quail Drive in Jones, Oklahoma after a 72-year-old woman, Linda Watts, took her own life. When officers arrived at the house, they found Linda deceased. During the investigation, detectives learnt that the woman's 44-year-old daughter J.D. Watts intentionally provided the gun that Linda used to kill herself. Linda was diagnosed with dementia, and J.D. was her caregiver. J.D. told detectives that her mother told her to shoot her earlier in the day, but that she wouldn't do it. Police obtained ring camera video from inside the home on the day of Linda's death, which showed J.D. swearing at and berating her mother, calling her a toddler and threatening her by saying, "Take your pill or choke on it and die." J.D. left her mother's bedroom, walked into the garage and returned with a handgun. She showed her mother how to remove the gun from the holster and told Linda, "Do with it what you will." J.D. exited the room again and returned with a drill, saying she was going to lock her mother inside the bedroom. Linda then fired 2 shots, killing herself. After her mother shot herself, J.D. called a hospice worker and told her that her mother had shot herself with a gun that she provided to her. After the phone call, the hospice worker called the police and relayed the information to them. J.D. told the investigators it sucks being a 24/7 caregiver. On the 21st of November, the Oklahoma City Police Department announced that the case was presented to the Oklahoma County District Attorney's Office and an arrest warrant was issued for J.D. J.D. turned herself in to the Midwest City Police on counts of felony murder by caretaker abuse and kidnapping. She was booked into the Midwest City Jail and was released after posting a $1 million bond. J.D.'s Facebook profile suggests that she recently survived cancer. In a 2017 Facebook post celebrating her mother's birthday, J.D. described Linda as an amazing mum. Linda's death came a week before her 73rd birthday. A 27-year-old high school art teacher is accused of sending inappropriate pictures to a 16-year-old student. On Monday the 20th of November, Emily Swinkowski, who taught at Water Valley High School in Mississippi, was arrested over the photos and charged with enticement of a child and child exploitation in connection with the incident. The case came to light after a different student learned about the teacher sending nude photos of herself to a victim and tipping off the principal, who then contacted police. Emily resigned following her arrest and was released on a $50,000 bond. A mentally ill man fatally shot his family and himself in a triple murder-suicide. At around 10 a.m. on Sunday the 19th of November, authorities responded to a residence at 129 East 9th Street in Lorain, Ohio to complete a welfare check after receiving reports from neighbours of loose dogs wandering outside the home. When officers arrived at the apartment, they found the upstairs door open, and upon entry they found 4 bodies inside with gunshot wounds. Authorities said that 29-year-old Tyler Young shot his 24-year-old wife Skylar Young, their 4-month-old son Bandon Young, and his 9-year-old stepdaughter Angel Isaac before turning the gun on himself. Investigators said they found Tyler in the living room with a gunshot wound to the head, and a 9mm firearm beside him used to shoot himself and the family. Authorities said they believe the killings took place some point between 1 a.m. and 10 a.m. on Sunday, adding there was no reports of gunshots in the area. Tyler's family said that Tyler was schizophrenic and fighting demons in his mind. In May of 2023, he was arrested on domestic abuse charges after slapping and choking Skylar in a business parking lot while she was 26 weeks pregnant with Bandon. However, the following month Skylar recanted a statement, claiming that she may have had a flashback to a prior incident. The case went ahead and was presented to a grand jury in Lorain County, which chose not to indict Tyler. A 29-year-old man is behind bars for assaulting an elderly man with a baseball bat, causing serious injuries. At around 6:30 a.m. on Monday the 20th of November, authorities responded to the Lighthouse Hill Apartments in the 1200 block of West Lawn Court in Edgemoor, Delaware on reports of an assault near a bus stop. When officers arrived, they found a 64-year-old male who had sustained multiple injuries to his upper body. The victim was transported to Christiana Medical Center in a critical condition. During the investigation, police learnt that the suspect Rafael Murillo had fled the scene on foot towards Governor Prince Boulevard. Additional units responded to the area and located Rafael a short distance away. They apprehended him without incident and located the weapon. Rafael is charged with attempted murder and possession of a deadly weapon during the commission of a felony. He was arraigned and booked into the Howard R. Young Correctional Institution and remains held on a $90,000 bond. The motive of the attack is unclear as the investigation into the matter continues. On Monday the 20th of November 2023, 28-year-old Demira Giway Finley was found guilty of murder in the 2020 stabbing death of a 26-year-old boyfriend DeAndre Grant. At around 11:15 p.m. on Wednesday the 30th of September 2020, Demira called 911 and told dispatch that DeAndre had entered her apartment in the 1900 block of West Riverside Boulevard in Rockford, Illinois and collapsed. When officers arrived, they found DeAndre unresponsive with stab wounds to his chest and legs. He was transported to hospital where he was pronounced dead. Demira was identified as a suspect and she was arrested. Demira is due to be sentenced on the 15th of December and faces between 20 to 60 years behind bars, followed by 3 years of supervised release. A 30-year-old man is behind bars for fatally shooting his 32-year-old girlfriend. At 11:23 p.m. on Sunday the 19th of November, authorities responded to a residence in the 1100 block of Julia Avenue in Albany, Georgia on reports of shots fired. When officers arrived, they entered the premises and found Akeisha Warren unresponsive with multiple gunshot wounds, and she was pronounced dead at the scene. During the investigation, authorities determined that the victim's boyfriend, Rico LaShawn Hall, shot Akeisha and fled the scene in a white Nissan Altima. Officers later received a report that Rico had wrecked the vehicle on DeShort Road in Sassa, located roughly 13 miles away, and left the wreck on foot. At around 4:30 a.m. on Monday the 20th of November, authorities spotted Rico about 2 miles from the crash scene, strolling down Highway 82 near Mark's Melon Patch, heading back towards Albany. He was taken into custody but refused to speak to officers regarding the homicide. Rico's been charged with murder, aggravated assault and possession of a firearm during the commission of a crime. He's held at the Doherty County Jail. The motive of the attack is unclear as the investigation into the matter continues. A couple are behind bars after their newborn baby was almost beaten to death for crying too much. At 7:37 p.m. on Sunday the 19th of November, authorities responded to the Juniper Hills apartment complex at 855 Louisville Road in Frankfort, Kentucky on report of a medical distress call. When officers arrived, they entered Unit 118 and found an unresponsive 4-week-old baby with blue lips, blue colour around her eyes, and possibly an obstructed airway. She also had injuries on her head and neck. Medics transported the baby to Frankfort Regional Medical Center, then transferred her to University of Kentucky Children's Hospital for additional treatment due to the severity of her injuries. The suspect, the girl's father, 29-year-old Aaron Fredrickson, told officers on scene that he intentionally physically assaulted the baby in an attempt to quiet her crying. Arian's girlfriend, the baby's mother, 19-year-old Helena Herbert, told detectives that she'd been aware of Arian's abusive behaviour towards their daughter since the beginning of November and had witnessed him causing physical injury to the newborn. She added that he told her of attempting to smother the baby with his hand multiple times and that she was afraid that he would hurt the baby further in future. Arian was arrested and charged with abuse of a child and domestic violence assault. He's held at the Franklin County Jail on a $1 million bond. Detectives said Helena had known of the abuse for several weeks and did nothing to stop it or report the matter to police. She was charged with abuse and failure to report neglect and abuse. She's also held at the Franklin County Jail on a $1 million bond. Police said the child is still being treated for multiple serious and potentially life-threatening injuries. The investigation into the matter continues. A middle school teacher is accused of exchanging nude photos and videos with a 14-year-old male student over Snapchat. On the afternoon of Friday, the 17th of November, 30-year-old Caitlin Barnes from Boonville Junior High School in Arkansas was arrested at her home in Fort Smith and was charged with multiple child sex offences. Authorities said that Caitlin admitted sending the boy sexually explicit photos and videos of herself and directed him to do the same to arouse or gratify her sexual desires. The exchange took place during the night while they were at their own homes between the 17th and the 19th of October. The juvenile's mother learnt of the exchange and handed her son's iPhone over to authorities on the 20th of October. The explicit images and videos were found. Caitlin's been charged with sexual indecency with a child, producing, directing or promoting a sexual performance by a child, unlawful use of a communication device, and computer child pornography. She was held at the Logan County Detention Center, and on Monday the 20th of November, she was released on a $25,000 bail. Caitlin's since been sacked from the school. 30-year-old Christopher Trayvon Smith is behind bars for assaulting his 20-year-old pregnant girlfriend. On the afternoon of Wednesday the 22nd of November, Christopher went over to his girlfriend's house in San Antonio, Texas, to discuss a message she sent to her ex-husband. The victim told Christopher that she contacted her ex-husband to discuss their divorce and children. Christopher told her that she shouldn't have contacted him and punched her in the face several times. He then grabbed her by the neck and pinned her against the bedside table, continuing to assault her. The victim sustained injuries on her lip, right shoulder, rib cage and legs. The victim told officers that Christopher sprayed water on the bathroom floor and told her to tell her parents she slipped. He then fled the scene and was later arrested. Christopher's charged with assault of a pregnant person and felon in possession of a firearm, and he's held at the Bexar County Jail on a $90,000 bond. The investigation into the matter continues. Police are investigating a triple homicide after a couple and their young son were found stabbed to death. At just after 6:30 a.m. on Sunday the 26th of November, authorities responded to an apartment building at 674 East 136th Street in the Mott Haven section of the Bronx, New York on a report of a stabbing. When officers arrived, they discovered a deceased man lying in the lobby of the first floor of their building, covered in blood with multiple stab wounds to his chest. During the investigation, officers broke into an apartment after seeing a child lying on the ground and then found a woman's body, both deceased with multiple stab wounds. The victims were identified as 38-year-old Jonathan Rivera, 33-year-old Hanio Peralta, and their 5-year-old son Caden Rivera. Authorities have ruled the deaths a homicide. Police said they have a relative in custody who they suspect could be the killer. However, no charges have been announced. A family friend, Eusebio Byers, said that the night before he spoke with Jonathan, he was at the paint and sip with his girlfriend. They posted on social media having a good time. He was showing everyone, "Look how much better a painting is than mine." They were both happy, he said. Eusebio said that Jonathan worked 2 jobs, including as a janitor at his son's Bronx school to support the boy in Hanio, and spent all his time and money to ensure they were both happy. The couple split up about a year ago, but they began dating again in recent months to try and patch up their relationship, he added. One neighbour, Paulette Williams, said she heard a scuffle then loud thuds and arguing emanating from the first floor on Saturday night at around 11:30 p.m. and then it stopped. Other residents didn't recall anything out of the ordinary. Neighbours told investigators that all 3 had recently moved into the unit and are mostly kept to themselves. The motive of the attack is unclear as the investigation into the matter continues. A 23-year-old man is behind bars for fatally beating his girlfriend. At around 4 a.m. on Saturday the 18th of November, authorities responded to Murtagh's Village Apartments in Jasper, Texas after receiving a 911 call and reports of a disturbance. When officers arrived, they found 24-year-old Rosalind Lewis inside an apartment dead from blunt force trauma injuries. Authorities said that Rosalind's 23-year-old boyfriend William Christian Thomas got into an argument with her before he beat her to death. It's unclear what the argument was about. William was arrested and charged with murder and is held at the Jasper County Jail with bond set at $1 million. Rosalind was a cheerleading coach and leaves behind 3 children, aged 2, 3 and 5 years old, who are now in the care of relatives. The investigation into the matter continues. A 57-year-old man has been charged for sexually abusing a young boy. Authorities said that Stephen Gorman abused a juvenile male victim at his home at 2271 Trolley Bridge Road in Quakerville, Pennsylvania. Police said they began investigating Stephen in late October. On the 16th of November, Stephen was arrested and charged with indecent assault on a person younger than 13, corruption of minors, and endangering the welfare of a child. He was released after posting a $500,000 bond. The investigation into the matter continues. A 29-year-old man is behind bars after attacking his stepfather with a claw hammer. At around 3 a.m. on Friday the 24th of November, Frankie McNeil walked into his mother and stepfather's bedroom at their home in South Charleston, West Virginia and accused them of trying to kill him. Police said that while his stepfather Stuart Fields lay in bed, Frankie hit him on the left side of his face with a hammer, causing serious injuries. He was then rushed to hospital in a critical condition. Authorities said that Frankie was staying in the house for the Thanksgiving holiday. Frankie was arrested and charged with malicious assault and is held at the South Central Regional Jail on a $10,000 bond. The investigation into the matter continues. 44-year-old Kelly Boggs is behind bars after she attacked a man with an axe. At around 1 a.m. on Friday the 24th of November, the victim was found in a ditch outside the Carter County EMS Station's west base along East Tom T. Hall Boulevard in Olive Hill, Kentucky with an injury to his face. The victim was taken to a hospital with serious injuries, and Kelly was identified as the attacker. Authorities said that after the attack, Kelly shattered a glass door at the EMS station and entered while EMS workers were inside sleeping. EMS crew held her at gunpoint until officers arrived. Kelly was arrested and booked into the Carter County Detention Center on charges of assault and criminal mischief. The motive of the attack is unclear, as the investigation into the matter continues. 35-year-old Carl Clayton Robinson is behind bars for stabbing his 75-year-old father Charles Dwayne Robinson. At 5:36 p.m. on Thursday the 23rd of November, authorities responded to a residence in the 600 block of 33rd Street in Parkersburg, West Virginia on report of an assault. When officers arrived, they found Charles seated inside the home he shared with his son Carl, with multiple stab wounds and lacerations. An officer rendered first aid until medics arrived and transported him to a hospital, where he remains in a stable condition. A witness told officers that the victim's son was believed to still be in the residence. After a brief search, Carl was located and taken into custody without further incident. Carl was booked into the North Central Regional Jail in Doddridge County on a charge of malicious wounding. The motive of the attack is unclear, as the investigation into the matter continues. 74-year-old James Faulkner Sr. and 33-year-old Amber Taylor are behind bars on multiple drug offences. On Thursday the 16th of November, Craven County deputies stopped a vehicle along Washington Post Road in New Bern, North Carolina for a registration violation. During the stop, a police dog alerted deputies to the possible presence of narcotics in the car. While searching the vehicle, deputies located various narcotics and drug paraphernalia. James and Amber were arrested and booked into the Craven County Jail on bonds of $2 million. James evaded and is charged with trafficking heroin, intent to manufacture, sell and deliver controlled substances, along with possession of drug paraphernalia. Amber of New Bern is charged with trafficking heroin and opioids by possession, intent to manufacture, sell and deliver controlled substances, identity theft, possession of drug paraphernalia and resisting an officer. The investigation into the matter continues. A 75-year-old suspect in the Thanksgiving murder has died. On the morning of Thursday the 23rd of November, Authorities responded to a home in the area of Post Street in Inverness, Florida on a report that a possible homicide had taken place. When deputies arrived at the residence, they knocked on the front door and announced themselves. When there was no answer, they began checking the home's perimeter. In the backyard, they saw a large butcher's knife along with blood and drag marks on the ground. Deputies again attempted to make contact with the resident before going inside the house. Upon entry, they found 75-year-old Jonathan Dimmick Sr. sitting in the living room, unresponsive but still alive with a self-inflicted gunshot wound to his stomach. Medics attempted life-saving measures on Jonathan, and he was flown by helicopter to hospital, where he later died. Further investigation led deputies to the dismembered body of 67-year-old James Banks, who was found in the trunk of his own vehicle. Authorities said they identified Jonathan as a suspect in James's murder, who then fatally shot himself inside his home. The relationship of both men and the motive in the slaying is unclear. Citrus County Sheriff Mike Prendergast said, "The scene our deputies responded to was absolutely shocking. It is rare that a case this horrific occurs in Citrus County, but this is what we prepare for. It is truly unfortunate that our suspect will never be prosecuted for this brutal crime. However, thanks to our caller's courage and our team's quick response, Mr. Banks's family can begin their grieving process with the knowledge that no one will ever suffer again at the hands of Mr. Dimmick." 25-year-old McKinley Sloan Hernandez is behind bars and is accused of injuring a 2-year-old toddler in her care. McKinley was taken into custody on Thursday the 23rd of November after a warrant for her arrest was issued for child abuse of a 2-year-old boy who was seriously injured in Lakewood, Colorado in September. The boy's mother, Stephanie Reichert, said, "You never know it would happen to you, especially by someone who you consider a friend." Stephanie said McKinley won't admit to anything. All she said is she was drinking and he got hurt in her care. Stephanie said McKinley regularly watched her son along with others at an unlicensed Lakewood childcare facility at her home. She said McKinley had agreed to watch her son overnight on the 1st of September, but texted her at around 8 p.m. that something had happened. "I received a message from McKinley saying I needed to rush to St. Anthony's Hospital because my son had gone lifeless after a bath. Once I saw him and all the 50 doctors standing around, I had to leave the room because it was the worst thing I've ever seen in my life," she said. Stephanie said Giovanni suffered blunt force trauma injuries to his head and body, but she still doesn't know exactly what happened. She said he had to have part of his skull removed because of the swelling and bleeding on his brain. Giovanni's family spent weeks in the hospital and now back at hospital for another surgery. Stephanie says she worries about the lifelong impacts of the injuries on her son as they anticipate a long road to recovery. "He doesn't like strangers," she said. "Now he doesn't like nurses and doctors. He doesn't let anyone touch him. We have to do everything for them in there." McKinley's been held at the Jefferson County Jail on a $100,000 bond. The investigation into the matter continues. 42-year-old Edward Kim is behind bars for holding a woman against her will and torturing her at his residence over 2 days. On Thursday the 16th of November, the woman managed to escape from Edward's apartment, located at Craigmont Villas at 4300 North Lamont Street in Las Vegas, Nevada. Authorities responded to the area on numerous reports of finding a woman covered in wounds to her hands, feet and chest. She was taken to University Medical Center with severe traumatic injuries, and there told staff that she was beaten with bolt cutters, restrained with zip ties, and her hair was set on fire with a torch lighter. Doctors found multiple fractures to the woman's legs, a closed fracture to the nasal bone, contusions to her upper torso, fractures to her fingers, singed hair, and signs of sexual assault. Officers returned to the scene after speaking with the woman. There they found blood on the porch and tried to make contact with Edward. He was later found at a nearby park, and officers found he had an outstanding warrant for his arrest on arson charges. Edward told officers that he did not know how the woman was injured and told them about sounds he heard in the attic. Eventually, Edward admitted that he and the victim had been messing around and claimed he was not really a criminal. Police recovered bolt cutters, zip ties, and security footage from Edward's apartment. Edward was arrested on numerous kidnapping, sexual assault, battery, and arson charges. He's held at the Clark County Detention Center without bond and is scheduled to appear in court for a preliminary hearing on the 5th of December. The investigation into the matter continues. 53-year-old Zara Jones is behind bars for fatally stabbing her boyfriend 69-year-old Michael Willett and her grandmother 93-year-old Aramine Mayo. At around 2 p.m. on Saturday the 25th of November, Authorities responded to a home at 7 Fuller Lane in Denmark, Maine to complete a welfare check on the victims. When police arrived at the home, Zara claimed that Michael was out hunting. Police quickly learnt that Michael had a stroke and was wheelchair-bound and was not capable of hunting. Zara refused to let police search the home and told an Oxford County Sheriff's Office sergeant that he was a mongrel and to get down on his knees and pray. Deputies obtained a search warrant, and when they entered the premises, they found Michael's body in the bed and Aramin's body was found in the home's entryway. Both victims were stabbed multiple times in the chest. Aramin sustained at least 10 stab wounds, which officials believe occurred before and after her death. Investigators determined that she had been dead for over a day before police found her body. Michael had been stabbed 3 times, and he'd also been dead for more than a day. Police recovered a blood-covered butcher's knife at the scene near Aramin's body. A family member of Zara told police that Zara and Michael had been living together for years, and that Aramin moved in with them in July of 2023. That family member said that Zara told her that she was tired of taking care of both Michael and Aramin, but she wouldn't let family members help. While police were processing the crime scene, Zara was in the bed near the kitchen acting like she was sleeping and would not speak to anyone. Zara was taken to Bridgeton Hospital for a mental evaluation due to her erratic behaviour. She was then booked into the Oxford County Jail on 2 counts of murder, where she remains held without bond. The investigation into the matter continues. On the 16th of November, 26-year-old Emma Jane Hoover was arrested and charged with manslaughter after a 2-year-old son accidentally shot himself. At around 3 p.m. on the 24th of October, Emma was driving a white GMC Yukon with her friend 44-year-old Avis Damone Coward, who was sitting in the front passenger seat, and a 2-year-old toddler in the back seat. After pulling into a Sunoco gas station at 3000 Dunkel Road in Lansing, Michigan, Avis got out of the vehicle and walked to go into the store. Emma told police that while she and her son remained in the car, her son unbuckled himself from the child seat and crawled into the front seat. Emma said she was playing on her phone when she heard what she described as an explosion. Emma then got out of the vehicle holding her son, who had a gunshot wound to his face. Emma said that when she got out of the SUV, Avis's gun fell onto the ground. She then handed a child to Avis, who then gave him to someone else who took him inside the store and attempted to control the bleeding until medics arrived. He was transported to hospital, but died from his injuries the following night. Surveillance cameras from the gas station showed a small bullet hole that appeared in the front passenger window of the vehicle. As Avis went to close the car door, he bent over to pick up the gun and put it back into the vehicle. He also broke the window that had a bullet hole. He then got into the vehicle and fled the scene. Emma told police that she owned a firearm, but said the gun the boy shot himself with belonged to Avis. Lansing police arrested Avis later that day. They did not find the Yukon he left the scene in earlier. He was charged with being a felon in possession of a firearm, as he had 6 felonies since 1998 and was prohibited from owning one. Police learnt that there were 2 firearms in the vehicle, which were later removed and hidden in a barrel in the backyard at a residence owned by Avis. The gun involved in the boy's death was dismantled and sold in pieces. On the 31st of October, police found the GMC Yukon in a field in Lansing heavily damaged by fire. Authorities said that Emma was grossly negligent by either failing to protect her son from unsupervised access to a loaded weapon, or by discharging a gun in close proximity to an unrestrained child while in the vehicle. Following her arrest on the 16th of November, she was arraigned in court on the 20th of November on 7 felony counts, including involuntary manslaughter, second-degree child abuse and various weapon charges. Emma was also charged with illegally tampering with an electronic monitoring device that was worn or used as a condition of probation for previous drug convictions. A judge set her bond at $75,000. On Wednesday the 22nd of November, Avis was arraigned on a charge of felony possession of a firearm. Authorities said that additional charges are possible. The investigation into the matter continues. A 27-year-old pest and lawn service worker has been arrested twice for exposing himself to 2 female victims during 2 separate incidents. Tyler Mountain of Lake Wales, Florida has been charged with lewd exhibition and lewd exhibition to an elderly person. The investigation began on the 26th of October after a 76-year-old woman reported that an employee of Massey Services exposed himself to her while he was in her Davenport, Florida home to provide an estimate for pest control services. The victim reported that Tyler stepped out of the bathroom exposing himself, saying that his zipper was broken, and requested her assistance, which she refused. When a Polk County Sheriff's Office detective contacted Massey Services, a regional manager informed the detective that Tyler's employment with the company had been terminated following the complaint, the second such complaint they received about him. On the 22nd of November, Tyler was arrested for the 26th of October incident. However, the victim in the previous incident in Haines City was not in the county at the time. Upon the woman's return, the detective met with her and learnt that Tyler came to her home on the 24th of July for lawn maintenance, exposed himself, and claimed his zipper was broken. On the 25th of November, Tyler was arrested again and charged with a July offence. Polk County Sheriff Grady Judd said this man used his position to gain access to the homes of these women, and then sexually exposed himself. This behaviour is disgusting and predatory. We believe it's possible that more victims of this man could be out there, and if that's the case, we want them to come forward, he said. The investigation into the matter continues. 34-year-old Kenneth Bryan is behind bars for stabbing a woman in an unprovoked attack. At 2:05 p.m. on Sunday the 26th of November, authorities responded to a Walgreens parking lot at 1565 Airport Road South in Naples, Florida for a reported battery. Authorities said a woman was heading back to her car when she spotted Kenneth following her out of her peripheral vision. The woman tried to walk faster to get to her car, but before she could get to safety, Kenneth grabbed her and stabbed her twice in the back with a 5-inch knife. At the time, the victim initially thought the suspect was punching her. A Walgreens employee who witnessed the attack then called 911 for help. When deputies arrived, Kenneth told them he stabbed a woman. When he asked why he did that, Kenneth stated because I wanted to. The victim survived the attack and was treated at the scene, but deputies said she refused to be taken to a hospital. Investigators found the knife broken in 2 pieces in the parking lot. It had a serrated edge and a black handle. Bryan was arrested and booked into the Collier County Jail and charged with aggravated battery. The investigation into the matter continues. 43-year-old Freddie Wright is behind bars after police found his wife's burned remains inside a metal drum. At 7:57 p.m. on Tuesday the 21st of November, authorities responded to Whitney Mesa Park Trailhead in the 1700 block of Sunset Road in Henderson, Nevada, where they located a metal drum ablaze. The fire department extinguished the flames and found the remains of a deceased woman inside. Investigators identified the victim as Janelle Bowen. The coroner's office found evidence that Janelle died of asphyxiation by strangulation, and her death was ruled a homicide. Police identified the victim's husband, Freddie Wright, as a suspect. Authorities said that Freddie and his wife, along with their children, had been living in a residence with several other people since mid-November. An individual in their home told police that around the 18th of November, Freddie kicked them out so he could confront his wife. When the person attempted to get back inside, the door was locked. The witness stated seeing what appeared to be Freddie strangling his wife. On the 27th of November, authorities took Freddie into custody. Freddie told detectives that he went to talk to his wife regarding another relationship, and he said he had snapped and strangled her. He then kept her body for several days before he placed her into a metal drum and set the remains on fire at the Whitney Mesa Park Trailhead. Freddie remains held at the Henderson Detention Center without bail on charges of open murder, first-degree arson, and destroying evidence. The investigation into the matter continues. On the 27th of November 2023, 27-year-old Jesus Medrano III was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole for killing his father and stepmother after they stopped him sexually assaulting a teenage girl in 2021. In September of 2023, Jesus pleaded guilty to first-degree intentional homicide with the use of a dangerous weapon and first-degree attempted sexual assault with the use of a dangerous weapon. As part of the plea deal, prosecutors dismissed a second count of intentional homicide and child abuse. At 4:30 a.m. on the 6th of January 2021, authorities responded to a home at 918 46th Street in Kenosha, Wisconsin, after receiving a call from a girl who said that Jesus choked her. When officers arrived, they went inside the home and found blood all over the floor and along the wall, and located 2 deceased adults in the bedroom with stab wounds. The victims were identified as 49-year-old Jesus Medrano Jr. and 36-year-old Latrice Myers Medrano. Jesus was not at the residence when police arrived, but officers tracked him down to another house sitting on the basement stairs, still holding a machete in his right hand. He was ordered to drop the machete, which he did, before saying "just kill me," and he was arrested. Jesus told investigators that he had been having sexual thoughts about the 15-year-old female relative who lived at the house with him for an extended period of time, and he acted upon those thoughts that morning. He said he entered the girl's bedroom and brought a pair of socks with him in case she started to scream. He also brought his large machete into the room in case his dad came in to confront him so he could defend himself. He said as he tried to assault the girl, she fought back so he began to choke her. He said his father then came into the bedroom, so he grabbed the machete and stabbed him to death. Jesus said that Latrice then came into the doorway, so when he jumped over his father to get to her, he accidentally stabbed himself in the thigh. He said that he then fatally stabbed Latrice and ran out of the house. Authorities said that 3 child relatives fled from the home through a window during the machete attack and sought help from a neighbour who called 911. At his sentencing hearing, Jesus apologised and said, "I blame no one but myself for my heinous actions," before being sentenced to life behind bars. 71-year-old Robert McClure was behind bars for fatally stabbing his 61-year-old girlfriend Christine Miller at a senior living facility. At around 9:30 a.m. on Tuesday the 21st of November, authorities responded to the River Landing apartment complex at 29 Elm Street in Topsham, Maine on a report of an assault. When officers arrived, they entered an apartment and found Christine deceased with multiple stab wounds. Christine had stab wounds to her hands, arms, upper torso, neck, face, head and shoulders. An autopsy later determined she died of sharp force injuries. Authorities identified Christine's boyfriend Robert as a suspect. A man who works at the complex told police he heard screaming from Christine's apartment at around 9:30 a.m. that morning. He said that when he went to the door to investigate, Robert walked out with a knife in his hand. The worker then saw Christine and called 911. He used a cloth and applied pressure to Christine's neck, but by the time first responders arrived, Christine had no pulse and was pronounced dead. A woman who knew the couple told police that Christine and Robert both lived in the complex in separate apartments, and that Christine was trying to get Robert psychiatric help. Neighbours said that Robert had been making statements about witches living there, and threatening to burn the building down. Police found Robert in his apartment with bloodstains on his jacket, and a bloody knife was located in the sink, and he was taken into custody. In an interview with police, Robert said that voices told him that Christine was a witch and that she needed to die. "I did stab that lady. Something about this woman was evil," Robert said, adding that he was concerned she may have been trying to poison him. Robert was booked into the Two Bridges Regional Jail on a charge of murder and has been ordered held without bail. The investigation into the matter continues. 42-year-old Raymond Gerald Callicas is behind bars in connection to the death of his unborn child. Authorities said that on the 11th of November, Raymond assaulted his pregnant ex-girlfriend 32-year-old Jenny Nicole Hearn at her home off West North Carolina 152 Highway in Rowan County after an argument quickly turned physical. Days after the assault, the woman went to hospital with concerning symptoms, and the baby was born 24 weeks prematurely. Investigators said Josiah was born on the 14th of November 2023 and lived less than 12 hours before succumbing to injuries from the assault. After his death, an autopsy was completed and the medical examiner determined that Josiah had injuries to his liver, brain, heart, and lungs, and his death was ruled a homicide due to blunt force trauma. On Monday the 27th of November, Raymond was arrested and charged with murder of an unborn child. He's held at the Rowan County Jail without bond. Raymond was previously arrested by deputies on the 17th of November and served with warrants for breaking into Jenny's home. In that incident, Raymond broke into Jenny's home at around 4 a.m. on the 14th of November, using a log to break a window. He then entered the residence and began fighting with a man at the house, before breaking more windows on his way out. Raymond then ran into the woods. At that time, Raymond was charged with speeding, 2 counts of driving while licence revoked, having an expired registration tag, operation of a vehicle without insurance, having an expired inspection, first-degree burglary, assault, and damage to property. In August, Raymond was arrested in Stanley County for possession of meth and possession of drug paraphernalia. The investigation into the matter continues. On the 22nd of November, 50-year-old Shane Allen McMichael was arrested and charged with 3 counts of sexual exploitation of a minor. Shane, who's a teacher at Lakeview Middle School in Greenville, South Carolina, has since been placed on administrative leave. Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force investigators with the Greenville County Sheriff's Office made the arrest after receiving a cyber tip line report from the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. Investigators said that Shane distributed and possessed files of child sexual abuse material. If convicted, Shane faces up to 30 years behind bars. 44-year-old Sandra Jimenez has been arrested for stabbing her boyfriend in the eye with rabies needles for looking at other women. At just before 10 p.m. on Saturday the 25th of November, Sandra and her boyfriend of 8 years arrived at their home in the 500 block of Northeast 62nd Street in Miami, Florida, after spending the night out. Sandra was upset about her boyfriend staring at other women, and the pair had been arguing throughout the night. When a man went to lay down on the couch, Sandra jumped on top of him and jabbed him in the right eyelid with 2 rabies needles that were meant for their dogs. Sandra then left after realizing what she had done. The victim called police and was transported to Jackson Memorial Hospital, where he met with detectives. Officers later found Sandra sleeping in a car outside their home, and she was taken into custody. When questioned about the attack, she told police that her boyfriend's injuries were self-inflicted. She was booked into the Turner Guilford Night Correctional Centre and charged with aggravated battery. On Monday the 27th of November, Sandra appeared in bond court where Judge Mindy Glazer set a bond at $7,500 on a condition that she has no contact with her boyfriend. She has since posted bond. Sandra is due back in court for her arraignment on the 26th of December. The investigation into the matter continues. 63-year-old Kerry Burns is behind bars for fatally shooting her sister, 61-year-old Christy Burns. At 4:22 a.m. on Tuesday the 28th of November, authorities responded to the 100 block of Hilltop Drive in Kerrville, Texas on reports of shots fired. When deputies arrived, they found Christy unresponsive with a single gunshot wound to her chest. She was transported to the Peterson Regional Medical Center, where she was pronounced dead. Authorities identified Kerry as the suspect, and she was arrested. Kerry is charged with murder and is held at the Kerr County Jail on a $30,000 bond. The motive of the shooting is unclear, as the investigation into the matter continues.